Hello. How is everybody today? Changing backgrounds.
Ah.
Yeah. There's so many buttons to click. I know there's some programs where you can like line it up and you set up the pre-show and it just flows seamlessly. I'm just not there yet. Yep. All right. Checking levels.
Yes. Now you're talking into your microphone.
Well, it could be your hard hearing also. I mean, that's an option.
There has been a lot of music.
Hey! That is technically a thing.
What are you saying, Maud? What?
You're like those funny those funny clips that Sean always plays. Ma! Ma! He always plays all those where these guys are screaming and doing stuff. It's pretty funny stuff. I think they're epic. Oh, so 5x5 on the chat. Shout out Ash and Peg and trying to see who all I see in there. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. I know you all just left Johnny's show. I caught the tail end of it. And this is my lovely husband, Herschel.
I'm lovely.
Yes. In a very masculine way of lovely.
Very good. Very good.
It's totally a testosterone leaden lovely.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. That's what it is.
Yeah. I'll just I won't.
You gonna go with that?
I won't backhand compliment you, and I'll say you're beautiful tonight.
It's safer.
Yes.
It's safer.
I will always choose the path of safety and reconciliation.
Yeah. So we've been together 22 years.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah.
It depends on when you acknowledge it, because I acknowledge it a lot sooner than you do.
This is true also. This is very true. So we met in college and we kept meeting over and over. Like I met him the day that he came to scout the college that I was already attending. I ironically met him that afternoon and I met him in classes when he actually came. And then we got cast opposite each other.
In a show.
She
was a mole.
It was a children's show. We were all animal characters.
Wind in the Willows.
It was Wind in the Willows.
I was the toad.
Yeah. And I actually struggled a lot because my director, like there was this whole big debate about what my gender as a mole was. And this is
2002.
This is a long freaking time ago. And they were like, well, maybe we shouldn't because it's a children's show. I'm like, everybody else is like a character. Like they all have their, and they never would tell me mine. And I was like, I was so confused trying to be the non-gender specific mole that I was asked to be in my senior year.
The asexual mole.
It was like this whole big joke. So anyway, during that production, we started dating and we dated just under 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
While we were finishing school
while you were finishing school.
Yeah. And then I had internships and things lined up and was looking at masters and we, just the whole thing. So went through all the ups and the downs. And then through the 20 years, I don't know how many times we've changed careers, or like you haven't so much.
No, not really.
I'm the one that changes and does.
You can't hold a job.
Shut up. You are so mean to me tonight. My God, he's so mean. Maybe I'm just not meant to work for other people.
I've said that for years.
I mean, really, that's what it boils down to. I'm not meant to do it. I'm too opinionated. And eventually my mouth loosens and I say things that get me in trouble. So during the 20 years, I mean, we've had all kinds of financial issues. We've had job issues. We've had health crisis. We have had a lot of financial ups and downs.
We have put those vows to the test.
We have.
Multiple times.
Yes. And we were talking about it. Duppy. We're not going there. It was a children's play. We're not going there, Duppy. I'm watching the chat. Duppy is my resident troll in chief. For those who don't know on the Pill chat, Duppy is epic. And he's my friend. He's sweet.
Okay. The word troll is...
Yeah, no, I say that lovingly. I say that lovingly with Duppy. Because he always teases me. And it's funny stuff. I mean, it's funny. I'm never offended by it. But yeah, I tease him. He's my troll in chief. So
I like the Sean meme.
Sean. Okay, there's Sean stickers everywhere in the chat. Herschel hasn't been in the chat in a while, so he's watching it on the screen here as we're doing this. And there's, Sean faces. And now, all right, everybody, drop your Sean stickers because he hasn't seen them.
All right.
We'll start seeing some Sean stickers. So,
so why are we here?
Well, we have outlasted most people in our age bracket. Most of, like, even our wedding planner, and I had to have one because I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I was the most unromantic young girl ever, because I never really thought I was going to get married.
Yeah, I mean,
I really didn't think I was.
That's a place to really start the conversation, because
I never thought I would.
It was the hilarious combination of girl who never thought she got married and was, arguably dealing with a lot of the feminism that was pressed upon
propaganda
you at that time.
Yes.
With the hyper romanticized, basically farmtown boy that didn't know any better and had never had a girlfriend together. Or never had a girlfriend in any real substantiveness, and that's a random word that came into my head. But it was a very odd courtship. That
it was.
We somehow made work.
Yeah, you wore me down.
I did. I was persistent.
He was very persistent. So shout out there, guys. There is a fine line between stalker and persistent, but if you can master it, you'll win.
Yes.
Like the truth. So how would you okay, let's look at, for those who are, let's say, younger, dating or finding something, and they want a person to share their life with. We were talking about this earlier, and one of the things that I always tell some friends as a gauge is, if you're dating someone and you're contemplating getting more serious with them, or should this be the one, whatever your romanticized language on it is, how do you determine that? And my answer is always, is that when you are most joyous, if you have the most exciting news ever, who's the first person you call besides, like, I don't know, your parents or something, like your first person outside of your nucleus family? And then who's the first person you call when you are sad, when you are at your lowest, when you've been kicked down? And if that's the same person, that's a huge indicator, because you are comfortable being joyous and extraordinarily vulnerable with that person. That's a sign of trust. And you have to have that. Because I mean, we joke a lot. I mean, just living together for this long is a feat. I think if you can live with someone for that long,
if you can live with anybody for any amount of time, I mean, that's joining a household is
it's not easy.
It's not a joke.
No. And, especially at that age, because we were both raised in different areas and had very different childhoods. So even just simply like what I considered a clean house was different than what he did.
No, my favorite one was, we were doing construction projects.
My mom always said that's the other way you can tell if you can marry that person, is pick a home improvement project and see if you don't kill each other. Well, and she's right.
Yeah, but there was a hilarious moment. You probably don't even remember this.
Probably.
But we had to go get some plywood, and we didn't have a truck. So me being me, and me again coming from a small country town, I just got some binder twine and tied it to the top of the car. And you were horrified at this. And me, I was just in get her done mode, because that's what I did. That's how I grew up doing it.
Right.
I mean, if you can't put a 4x8 sheet of plywood in a small SUV, so you tie it to the top of the car.
Yeah.
This was not a problem. And it was in those moments that we just started finding those fun little things about one another.
Painting the house was another one. Over and over.
Us to build that life together.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important thing as you're starting out. And again, I'm talking to young people, because there's definitely a relationship epidemic. Like, that's the real pandemic, is that we no longer know how to create and maintain relationships.
That's why I keep coming back to the subject and harping on it.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for the younger generation, like the 30 and under crowd. They are not dating. They don't know how to ask each other out. They rely on these swipe apps, and you can't build a life with someone from an app. Like, I get you can meet them or something through a digital thing, but
yeah, and I think you have to be careful with that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna push back on that, because I know many people who have met, had gotten married, built families off of apps.
Mhm.
You of course see them in the promo videos for the apps, but
Right.
I've met some of them, and
Yeah.
it's possible. Is it probable? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the
But
likelihood of it.
I think those relationships are like lottery millionaires.
Yes. Yes.
They are just as likely to happen and flame out
Well, it's
in a couple of years
to me it's like the
instead of building them on a base foundation. And I think that's
yeah.
where we were able to, because a lot of people meet in through churches, and that's where
Mhm.
most people that I grew up with met their spouses was through church. Now, I'm gonna go out on a major limb here. Theater is not unlike church in the pagan world from, a millennia ago. The
Yeah, I
theater
could see that.
was a type of church. So you have to have almost, and I mean, if you really think about it, the tenets are quite the same. The theater and a
Okay.
church is a place that people gather. They read the same text.
Yeah.
They
They
have
share an
conversations.
experience.
There is a minister, i.e., a director. There are different deacons, and there's literally ushers. So you can correlate those two things. So we met in an environment that is very much like a church. Is it the same? No. Does
Mhm.
it serve the same purpose? No. But it is very functionally the same. In a lot of our theater,
Mhm.
we have a theater friend that
Mhm.
I'm thinking about Tiff and Steve.
Oh,
Never
yeah.
would have thought that they would be a good compatible match, but they have made it work and they're still together. They're one of the few friends that we have from that time that got together and stayed together.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it is definitely, I've never actually thought about it. That's why this metaphor is a little bit rambly, because it's just occurring to me in this moment, but it really is quite similar. And I think when you have either community groups or sports teams or theater or
Mhm.
church, if you meet somebody that has that early base interest, you have a lot to talk about. And I
Yeah.
remember sitting in the parking lot of the school after rehearsal, and we weren't making out and being ridiculous in the car. We were having deep conversations about art and film and
Mhm.
theater, and you
Mhm.
wanted to introduce me to things and I wanted to introduce you to things.
Mhm.
And I mean, film and theater became a big part of our lives, and
Yeah.
it still is. I still work. I work full time in the film and production industry, and you are doing live stream podcasts. So I mean, it's
Oh, the
something that
irony.
has really stayed with us for 20. I mean, there's not been any time in our 22 years that either separately or together we weren't involved in some type of creative
Production.
artistic endeavor.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's one of those things that has kept us together, but it's
No.
certainly one of those things that has been a consistent part of our lives. And it will not, I don't think it'll ever go away, mostly because I can't give it up. So I think if
This is
you
true.
have
I
that
could walk away, you couldn't.
no, I mean
You could not.
I can for a short period of time.
He gets real grumpy.
Yeah,
Like, he can't do it.
I mean, when you really think
Can't do
about it,
He'll
it
be like, "I'm
was-
gonna not do this," and I'll be like, "Yeah, okay. I
it
can
was
set an
fi-
egg timer to
since
this."
since I did Jesus Christ Superstar in April of this year, and
Mhm.
it had been 5 years since I was on stage.
Yeah, I know. That's the hardest part for you, is not being
Yep.
performing, because that's where your true
That's where my true passion is.
yeah, like,
But-
you're super good at other things, but
Looping back to this,
yes. Sorry, distraction.
Squirrel.
Real quick, let me shout out
Yeah, do your thing.
some people. Thank you, Sean Joe, for the 2 cookies, and Vanessa DC for the can. That's my special one that I asked you about. Vanessa,
Okay.
can you do that for me?
Are we doing that right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Just in case she has to leave. I want
Just
her
in
to
case.
just in case.
Okay, so Vanessa,
Vanessa's birthday was yesterday.
your birthday was yesterday, and now I'm dropping into the Sinatra voice, and that can only mean one thing: that it's time to say, "Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vanessa. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday."
Thank you. Thank you for doing that for me.
So,
Happy
yes.
birthday, Vanessa.
Happy birthday. And pro tip, guys, just do what she asks.
That's true.
That's I think if there's any tip at some point as a man in a relationship, you have to come to the understanding of a few certain things. Now with this one, what's really hilarious is that I just noticed that am I the only one that thinks he looks like Vince Vaughn? I've never been called Vince Vaughn. I've had a lot of other things,
That's a good
but
compliment.
I'll take it. You know,
That works.
Vince Vaughn's really tall.
He
I'll take it.
is.
But
could
what
kinda
I
see it.
find very amusing is that youth don't understand that I speak Mary Ellen better than any human being on the planet.
It's a code.
Yeah, and
Your wife will
you
always have a
will
code.
have a code, and
Even if
there
she
are
doesn't mean
things.
to, she has a code.
Like there
She
was a
can't help it.
situation on Saturday. Perfect example.
Like yesterday?
Like yesterday. Perfect example of understanding and speaking your wife's language, because your wife does have a language that only she speaks, and she marries you, and you get the opportunity to learn the language, although you probably will never master the dialect. I was supposed to go on a 48-mile bike ride yesterday morning. I'm training for Ironman. It's a fun thing. I saw this meme the other day that said at age 35, men have to decide if they're going to get it really into World War II or smoking meat. When you turn 40, you have to decide whether or not you're going to start complaining about every ache and pain you have or train for triathlon and Ironman.
That's
I
true.
went the Ironman path.
Mm.
So I'm supposed to do a 48-mile bike ride. And Mary Ellen comes and says, well, I need help with X. What are we going to do about X? And very quickly, I understood, because I speak Mary Ellen, she's saying, you need to help Mom and I with X thing. So I did. Very simply. And, was it frustrating? Of course, because I have a 70.3 mile race that I have to participate in here in about 8 weeks. So I need my training time. But what's more important, one day of a race or making sure that my wife and my mother-in-law are taken care of? And I have to make those decisions. And you know what? I will make those decisions because I can carve that time out later. You can't bend to every whim and every will. You have to eventually be your own human.
And you can't abuse it.
But
that's the other thing. The other partner can't abuse.
Because if I hadn't been there to do the pieces that I did, you wouldn't have been able to do the pieces that you were there to do. Right. And we were there to gate crash a farmer's market, just so you know. You were not able to charity. You were able to go and actually have the conversation that needed to happen that I would not have been able to have successfully.
Right.
And we were there to regulate each other. And I would say it the same way. You speak Herschel better than any other human on the planet.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And Herschel is like Swahili. It has clicks and everything else.
Crack and
it's a definite multi-phase language. And I just saw Ash say such a good hubby. Yes and no, it's because I'm a partner. It's not that I can't do laundry. I think I've actually been doing laundry in my life longer than you've been doing laundry.
Probably.
Because I learned at 10 or 11 years old because I had 2 working parents. And
I think I was 12 or 13.
Yeah. I mean, I can very functionally do laundry. I don't care to take the time to do it that you do. I love the bedspread. The bedspread's another thing. She will always come and ask me about bedspreads. Well, we have a sheet that has to go on top of the bedspread because we have dogs in the bed. As far as I'm concerned, we have one bedspread and it's blue. So when she comes to me and says, what about this bedspread? I'm like, I don't care.
Because I'm going to put a top sheet on it.
Yeah, because she's going to put this top sheet on it. I know that frustrates her, but this is the thing that you do. You take care of the house. You beautify the home. I do the grass and I do a lot of the grunt hard labor, and I am making the majority of the money that pays for the house right now.
Yep.
And that has been different in the past. When we first got married, you actually had the better job.
For the first 10 years, I made more money.
Yeah. So it's a partnership. And it always has to be a partnership. And sometimes partners have to go do different things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Being able, because this is where it comes in with the financial component and the health component, because both of those got ripped out from under us at the same time. And suddenly my really good job was gone and my health was gone. And we were left relying on his income and what we could pull together with him trying to support my health.
While I was starting a business.
Right. So like that's where we were talking about. Most marriages break up over finances is number one across the board. And then it's kids and sex, physical relation problems.
The top three problem areas of finance, and this is actual statistical data. I can't name studies because that just doesn't work for me. But finances, children, and sex are the 3 main things that cause issues inside of most marriages in the United States. And actually, that's a global statistic, if I'm not mistaken.
I feel like it is.
Yeah. I can't imagine that it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So if you can keep on top of those, knowing that they're going to fall apart, like there's going to be problems. And keep adapting.
Yeah. So when we were engaged, I remember we went to meet with the pastor at my church, and we had several meetings with them as like a counseling session of
Premarital counseling.
yeah, and which is a really good thing. I recommend couples to do that. You will learn. And he was actually shocked because most of the things he was throwing up at us, like, well, what happens if this happens? And we'd already talked out most of it. You know, we had really communicated heavily in our courtship. And then the other thing that we did, we wrote down a list of each one of us did, like, what is the absolute drop dead deal breaker? I will leave your ass in the dust. We did these lists, and we had the same items on the list when we compared them. And I was like, okay, I feel really good about this.
Yeah.
Like, but there will be no misunderstanding because we both have the same drop deads. Absolutely unacceptable.
And, you know, then we're open to have misunderstandings
Yes.
about just about everything else.
Pretty much everything
Because
else
that's
we will.
life.
Well, and again, you live with someone. Living with someone is really, like, I don't understand the people that are like, they date and then they're like, oh, we're going to live together. I'm like, yeah, it only looks fun and easy in sitcoms.
You know, I had a
It's the truth.
I had a very
In real life, no.
very sobering and also very powerful example of why the whole we're just going to live together marriage is just a piece of paper. This week, I attended a funeral for a former coworker who was just a little bit younger than me, and his wife just went through, or his, I mean, they were married for all intents and purposes except legally. And his wife had to go through living hell in the 3 months that he was in a coma after a car accident, trying to take care of him because she was not legally his wife. She had to spend, I think it was somewhere around $6,000 to get legal custody of him so she could actually be his medical advocate.
Yeah.
The idea of it's just a piece of paper. Yeah, it is just a piece of paper for governmental reasons, because marriage is appointed by God.
Right.
But in the world that we live in, the whole shacking up and living together thing, it will come and bite you in the bum eventually.
In more ways than one.
As somebody that there was a period of time that I was performing wedding ceremonies, and I really enjoyed it. And I would not usually do
my favorite one. They had him dress. Was it Batman?
Yes,
that was my fun. Favorite request of all the weird ones.
I did perform a wedding in my Batman costume, and they wanted a backdrop for the pictures, and they pulled up the Arkham Asylum sign. So that's what was behind us at because we performed the wedding in their living room. It was great. But I think that decision velocity is really important. And the one piece of advice I would always give my brides and my grooms was it's one piece. You have to sign one piece of paper to get married.
Yes.
It's a whole heck of a lot more pieces of paper you got to sign to go the other way.
Untangle that.
So there is a logic to decision velocity, and I think we did it fairly well. We were together about 2.5 years before we got engaged.
Yep.
And I think that was a solid time. I think it takes some people longer time, some people shorter time, but I'm sorry, if you're sitting on the pot for 5, 6, 7 years and shacking up, you're gonna run into a mess eventually. And where we live, there are actually common law laws.
Common law is a thing in our state.
Yeah, but that's not everywhere.
No.
And that also, not everything comes down the line in common law. So, there are even questions about my friend's family that his children may not inherit the way that they need to. And
understand the laws in your state
is not even taken care of. So, the whole idea of not doing
Look at Ash's sticker. She put a Batman sticker.
Love it. Gotta love it. Always with the Batman. I'll be Batman on Saturday, this coming Saturday for some kids.
He does that. He dresses up in costumes for kids that are sick in hospitals or to do different things.
We're doing the Wild Hearts Fun Run for kids with childhood heart disease, which is always a rather gut-wrenching event because they do a race with the children, and oftentimes the parents are trailing the kids that are running with their oxygen tanks. It's a really powerful expression of love of a parent. But I wanted to change the route here a little bit.
Go for it.
I said something. For me, it's always nice when I say something and it's like, oh, that was actually kind of profound. Because I don't really consider myself profound. But when we were talking about this, I said, if the happiest day of your marriage is the day you get married, you're doomed.
That's true.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
That's true. That's true. It is a glorified party. And while it's really fun and you'll have all the pictures and it's super great, yay! But beyond the honeymoon, you got to really have it locked in. And that can't be the happiest day.
Oh, I think before the honeymoon, you got to be locked in.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, I liked your statement that you said earlier about when the happiest day is.
Yeah, it has to be today.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow.
Yep.
And you have to live with the simple fact that you're not always going to get there.
Yeah.
That you're going to have days that start out really great, but then somebody breaks their leg or somebody,
Yep.
you know, you're going to have those days that it just doesn't work the way you think it's going to work, and you have to work through them, and you have to be willing to fail forward through those days.
Yes.
The things that have not worked. I mean, I have the continual frustration, and Ash, I know you'll appreciate this. We were at the home improvement store to get a new screen because the cats ripped the screen out again. And of course, this one wants to walk through the garden section. Well, I'm really tired of the garden section because we've spent thousands of dollars and we've gotten a few handfuls of blueberries and maybe a pepper and a tomato or two. So it's very frustrating to me to keep throwing money at a problem that we're not getting better at.
I'm learning.
And we both are.
Learning.
We both are.
I didn't live on a farm. I lived in a subdivision.
And that's
I
just
didn't
fine.
know.
It's just it's one of those things that I have to continue to grow and be accepting and give you that space to learn this.
We compromised. He let me buy a $10 lavender plant, and
I didn't let you do anything. We chose to do lavender together, and I think that's definitely something that, you know, you get into this idea of, you know, the trad wives and all these people. The husbands are going to be the ultimate decision maker. Blah blah blah. Yeah, you know what? Here's a fun fact, and this is one of the loveliest things. I can say this statement because I am both. We lovingly say actors are stupid.
Yes.
And I can say that because I'm an actor and I have been one for 25 years. Men are stupid. And I've been one for 41 years, so I know this. There's a reason that these live longer than these. Okay? Men are dumb. We make dumb decisions. It doesn't mean all of our decisions are dumb. That doesn't mean we're incapable of it. But when we come together and we make decisions together as a partnership, as a team, we are much more likely to have a positive decision-making
because we talk out and game plan most of our moves.
As you have to.
Yeah. But there are certain things that I instinctively know you will see in a problem that I will not.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's always the gender stereotypes, but they're there for a reason.
Yes.
I mean, these basic facts have existed since the beginning of our species.
Yep.
You know, I embrace it now. When I was younger and I was really in the feminist propaganda. And I mean, I wasn't ever like ridiculous, but
you were never a burn the bra.
No,
feminist.
I was never like that, but it was very much a, you know, I don't need one. I want to want one and have a good relationship. I don't want one out of desperation. I knew people when I grew up that stayed in bad situations out of desperation. Well, and I didn't want to ever be that.
And one of the most profound relationship statements that I have ever heard, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And it's just as simple as this. I don't need you. I want you.
Yeah.
And that's super powerful.
Yes.
Especially, I mean, I think especially for men, but I think it goes both ways. Women have to be able to look at their husbands and say, I don't need you. I want you.
Right. It's
because
a choice.
if you come into a relationship, you know, one of my favorite plays is called The Importance of Being Earnest.
Oh, that's a good one.
And that's
a very good one.
I can't remember the lines off the top of my head.
Very witty.
Okay, we're going to talk, conservative Chris, we're going to talk about happy wife, happy life here in a second, because I've got thoughts and feelings on that one.
Apparently, I just wound him up and turned him loose on my show this week.
In this play, there is a scene where Ernest is pouring out his love to... I can't remember the character's name. My gosh, I need to reread this play.
I remember
but he
Lindy
talks about
the character.
Loving her desperately. He said, "Oh, don't say you love me desperately." She basically just turns everything around, and it comes down to, I want you. I don't need you. And that's a very powerful thing. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Happy wife, happy life. I'm just going to call some bullshit on that one. Okay. It has to be happy spouse, happy house.
That's true.
Okay.
That's,
it cannot,
I agree.
if it is one-sided,
yes,
nothing is going to happen.
Yes.
If the husband lives to be nothing more than a heel licker to the wife's wants and needs, the husband is going to be miserable, and the husband will either buy a Ferrari and get a teenager as a wife, or he's just going to off himself. If the wife spends all of her time kowtowing to the husband, she's going to create a tyrant in her own house.
Yeah.
And
then you'll be walking on eggshells.
You can't operate in that way. You can't live that way. You cannot create a partnership that will produce children that will be of value, because children see that. And one of my favorite things that Kevin Voisin, who's been on the show, a good friend of everybody here, and his wife, they have a rule with their children. And the children have got an ESP about this, and I've seen it happen. If Kevin and Whitney get into a fight, the children are required to stay in the room until the fight is concluded. And now the children know now instinctively when the fights are happening, and they clear out. But the reason they do that is because they want their children to see that it is not only normal and healthy for two people involved in a partnership in something as stressful as managing a house of 7 people and raising 5 children. It is fine for you to fight. It is fine for you to disagree, but you also have to come to resolutions. And they want their children to see the resolutions.
They're more interested in the process to model.
Exactly. They want to model resolution as opposed to just, we're going to fight and complain. Yeah. I thought it was weird when I first heard it.
When you first told me about it, I was like,
experienced it.
I don't know.
Whole different ballgame.
Well, and by fight, we mean a verbal disagreement. We're not talking about anything super aggressive. That's not. I don't want to leave that impression, but
there are fights and there's fights. And I think and there are times that you have to fight for things.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to say, this is my position and this is where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't defend that to your spouse and partner, then maybe you should think twice about doing it.
And be okay when they poke holes in it.
Yeah.
Because it'll happen and it's really uncomfortable. We were talking about that. I don't like having the disagreements with you. It makes me very uncomfortable. I know I'm safe and I'm fine and nothing's going to, we're fine. It'll work out. But I love you so much. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because I just love you so freaking much.
I love you too.
But that's how I feel about it. I'm like, I'm fine having... Like, if anybody outside of our relationship messes with us, it's usually me that will go over there and get verbal. Like, I'm the more aggressive one naturally. I always was.
I got better.
Yeah, you. Yes, you did, baby. Yes, I rubbed off. But inside the relationship, I don't like it at all. But if anybody messes with my husband or my mom or anything, I'll throw down. I'll verbally throw down. I'm not gonna. But verbally, I'll defend the position and go after it.
Yeah.
So.
Good things happening in the chat over here.
Oh, good. The pill chat is always super fun. Super fun.
Love this.
What is it? Batman calls bullshit. Yes. That's a good sticker.
I do.
I like that.
You just made it go away.
Well, I was checking on my other channels because I simultaneously cast on my own personal channels and I was just checking that chat.
But you said something about getting uncomfortable. I think the idea, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because guess what? Life is uncomfortable.
Well, and
it doesn't mean you live there.
It forces you to grow as a person.
But you have to go there.
Yes. Yes.
It's not about living in a place of hardship.
No.
I don't like living in the soreness that I'm living in right now, but I want to get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
In 8 weeks on race day, I want to get 70.3 miles down the track to a finish line to prove that I can do it. And to do that, I have to be willing to selectively get uncomfortable. It's the same thing in a relationship. You have to have really sometimes nastily difficult conversations.
Yeah. We've had some really uncomfortable ones over the years that there's been a handful that were very difficult and led to a lot of tears, even for both of us. I mean, they're just hard conversations, but this, again, I can't stress it enough. You cannot go through decades with a person and not experience this.
No,
it's not possible. So
if you are signing up for, if you're very generous, you get 50 years. If you're, if life works,
in your body
and your body works perfectly, you get 50 years. I had a great aunt and great uncle that at the time of his death, at the time of her death, they had been married for 72 years. I cannot imagine that. They were both in their 90s when they died. But if you're lucky, you get 50 years. If you think you're going to go through 50 years and not have an uncomfortable conversation to get to an outcome, you're deluding yourself.
Yeah. And the other thing we talked about was the fact we do not speak in anger.
Yeah.
We try really hard to avoid it. Like every now and then, yes, something will slip out or whatever. I mean, we're human.
You don't
But
go to bed angry.
You don't go to bed angry, and you try when you're like, let's just say hypothetically, he does something that I find extraordinarily inconsiderate and offensive, and I'm just so frustrated with it. And I'll get butt hurt. Like my emotions will take over and I get butt hurt. I know to walk away, because if I engage when I'm in that mindset, I'm not going to get the result that I want. I'm just not. I'm not going to get it. And I'm not going to be able to articulate my position and my reasoning to acquire it. It's not his fault per se. Most of the time it's me, because I'm all emotional and I haven't thought it through and really gut checked. And then I always ask myself, okay, could he have meant something else? Could I have misinterpreted it? Is this, I go through all the different scenarios to make sure I'm not just being dramatic, because it happens. I think I'm pretty even keel, but everybody has those. I love the chat. Never mess with a short lady. They're spider monkeys. That's hilarious, you guys. I love the chat so much.
Okay. Braves Piano. Make alpha men alpha again, or make men alpha again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
So I've had, in my life, I've dealt with alpha males, sure. But over the last 4 years, especially, I have dealt with some alpha flipping males. Oh, my Lord.
Jeez, yeah.
Men are supposed to lead. Absolutely. We are supposed to be the strong ones. We are supposed to be this. We are supposed to be that, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things. You can do that, and you can also be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most alpha men I have ever met can rage out, throw logs, swim miles,
Navy SEALs,
build a shopping mall out of a matchstick and a bunch of twigs, and then they can be the comforting and support. So I think the most alpha men I have ever met are also very able to be a supportive helpmate.
Yeah. And we were talking earlier, and I said, I think one of the keys to a healthy relationship is understanding yourself and being okay with who you are. Not that you don't always want to improve or grow, but if you don't like yourself, how are you going to attract someone to like you? And you don't really want someone that's going to fix you. You want someone that you can work together and grow with, but not fix you. You know what I mean? Like, yes, they can help you in different things, but so often that leads to more of a codependency thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for long term, that may not be the best route for a lot of people. I mean, I know there's exceptions and it happens, and I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just.
Would you agree that that is a more feminine issue?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I feel like the message would be,
yes.
Ladies, men are not a home improvement project.
Yes. And that's true.
I think we have all seen that go or I know you and I have seen that go very badly for so many people.
Yeah.
And there are some people
they just kept
there are
thinking,
some flaws that just cannot be fixed.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, if I just love them more, if I just do this more, if I just no. Sometimes you can't. That's why these conversations of understanding what are their life goals? What are their ethnic principles? What do they want out of life? What are the deal breakers? What will they absolutely not tolerate? What is the most offensive thing they think is? Because what I think is horribly offensive is not the same as what somebody else does. Mm-hmm. So you have to have all of these. And if everything doesn't line up, and you can have a little bit off, but if they're willing to change, and then everything is on the table, everything is out. And I think that's the biggest thing. You get caught up in the romance and the physical and the, all the stuff, which is great. But long term, all the cards have to be on the table. The good, the bad, the ugly. Know what you're getting into. And then everybody is going to have areas, like I've grown in different ways. You've helped me grow, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. We each have made each other a stronger person and a better human.
Yeah.
But those flaws were on the table, and neither of us hid them. Again, this goes back to some of those uncomfortable conversations, particularly during my health crisis.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of uncomfortable conversations, and a lot of it came down to me. I had to let go of what I perceived my life and my identity was tied up in, because I no longer could physically be that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very hard journey. And I probably was very difficult, very difficult during that time, because I was so upset and I hated myself. Like, I felt like a failure. So this goes back to my message of, if you don't love you, and if you're not going to really rebuild you, it makes you very difficult to be a good partner. I hope I'm expressing this well.
I don't. I love that I'm having chat conversations. Conservative
I
Chris,
know.
I don't think that the true alpha males have checked out. I think most of them are just taken right now, because they're not making more of them. It's like land; they're not
That's
making any
true.
more of it.
That's true. They're not.
There are very few alpha males being reared at the moment.
Yeah, that's a thing. I see a lot of women that are really trying to make that shift in the parenting, because I think
Except in China,
my
'cause
gener
they're producing them
they're
ad
producing
nauseum there.
they're putting testosterone in all the food, and they're but my generation was the helicopter parents. There were things that happened when we were in school, and they instinctively didn't want that to happen with their kids, so they helicopter parented, and now we have a bunch of people that can't cope. I mean, that's where the snowflake generation came from. That's the joke of the snowflakes, and it goes for both genders, but we pick on the men because their role in society has been just kneecapped so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a struggle. And then I know, like, you're not abrasive, or you're just very confident with your overall demeanor in the outside. Like, when you're going out to work and to do things, you are just very competent and content. So,
And direct.
and you've grown to be very direct. That was something you had to overcome.
Yeah.
You really didn't like doing that. That's one of the things that rubbed off from being around me, because I've always been uber direct. Like, just look in the eyes. Here's what's going on. If you don't like it, well, let's just talk about it and work through it. Okay, moving on. Like, that's how I've always been. But you frequently, I don't want to say picked on, but you do get targeted for being confident and competent.
Mm-hmm.
That happens a lot.
Well,
It's happened a lot in the last 5-6 years.
What's interesting is I wouldn't categorize it as being picked on.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I would actually categorize it as, there is a fear complex around me that has, like, there is this,
which is sad.
And let me be clear. I'm specifically talking about my industry, with people that I have known, and I do not understand the things that are about to come out of my mouth. And nobody can really explain them to me other than I'm direct. People are afraid to work with me. People are afraid to contact me because they have put me on this pedestal, not of being difficult to work with, but they're just people that are honestly afraid to reach out to me because they think I'm gonna be mean to them. And I mean, it's because people will often contact me and say, "Hey, will you look at my film or my screenplay?" And I'll watch it, or read it or look at it, and then I'll message them back with a very simple question: do you want me to fluff you, or do you want me to give you my honest opinion? And a lot of people have had the temerity to say, I want your honest opinion, and then they get it, and that's terrifying.
I don't know if people know what an industry fluffer is. That's I'm not going to explain that one. That's something to look up, folks.
I will let you Google that on your own time. But it has definitely become an issue in my life that and I mean, you are terrifying in of yourself.
I was going to say I had the same problem,
but I learned that. I
had the same problem when I ran sets and did that, because
most of the time it's been a benefit to me, because it keeps a lot of people out of my DMs that I don't want to deal with.
Well,
not because I'm too special, but because honestly, I can't help a lot of people.
Well, and
I do what I can.
It keeps a lot of the dumb questions away on set.
It can.
It can. I mean, everybody needs to be able to answer questions, but
the problem that it's
sometimes they slow you down.
Being confident is that I have people that will be like, "Well, I would have called you, but we would have said no." Well, that's not your decision. call me.
No one will
ask
ever say
me,
yes if you don't
and
ask.
I will make that decision for me. But you deciding that I won't work with or for you because of budget or this, that, and the other, that doesn't help me. That doesn't help you. It doesn't help me because I might be in a position where, hey, work slow. Yeah, I'll come shoot your wedding for $250 for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that.
No, but you've done it for friends.
Yeah. And I'm going to do it again this weekend. I'm going to go do a short job because person needs help. I don't have anything else going on. So why not go make a little bit of money? Is it my full day rate? No. But it's 3 hours out of my day. I can help somebody else. Maybe they'll learn something from me. And quite often, I often learn something from them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key back to this whole idea of tomorrow needs to be the best day of your marriage, or today needs to be the best day of your marriage.
Yes.
Adapting.
Yes.
You have to be in a constant state of adaptation.
And I used to hate change. And that's another one I had to get over.
And I
really didn't like certain things. I liked change, but not like really upheaving your life.
Yeah.
Like I really didn't like any of that. I still don't, but it happens.
Something I said earlier, this is going to come back into that, is the idea of decision velocity. So many people, they can't make decisions because they are going to do pro and con lists, and they're going to do that, and they're going to do this, and we're going to hem and haw. I need to talk to this person. Let me check with this person. You've got to get to the point that you're making decisions quickly.
Yes.
Because you know what? If you do make a wrong decision, which heads up,
happens.
Spoiler alert, you're going to.
Yep.
You're going to make wrong decisions, especially when you're making decisions fastly. Fastly? Is that a word? It is. My butt's been white
tonight.
You're going to make decisions quickly and you're going to make mistakes. But you know what? If you're making quick decisions, you can say, okay, well, this isn't working. Let's do this. So now you can course correct, and that allows you to not get stuck in a decision mire that you can't get out of. And when you're adapting with your spouse and your partner, you guys have to make decisions quickly.
Yes.
The faster, if you hem and haw on something for weeks and weeks and weeks, we had a rather large decision that we made, something that we've been talking about off and on. We finally looked at it, said, hey, here's a situation. We need to do this, this, and this. What do you think? I think we should do this.
Yep.
Okay, I agree with that. Let's go. And we made, once that decision was made, it's allowed us to make quick decisions on multiple other things.
Yes.
And when you can do that, and when you can get in simpatico, let's use that word.
Fancy.
There's a 90s term.
You're just busting out all the quarter words today.
Hey, I like my $4 words. Okay. When you can be simpatico with another human being and make decisions and increase your decision velocity, you're going to be able to become so much more adaptable. So when the cat runs away or the car breaks down or the blueberry bush dies, you can make these decisions quickly, and you're not going to have that muck and mire.
I think
when we had a situation with your podcast setup, that the computer that I secured for you, because I've done all the tech for your show, every piece of equipment that runs the show that you are seeing right now, I procured and I put together for Mary Ellen. The computer we found out was not working. So we very quickly made the decision to buy a new one. Why? Because it's what she needed. And we had the ability to do it. So we made, I think, what did that decision take?
Oh, you had
all
it
of
found,
5 minutes.
I was upset about it because I thought, oh my God, I have to go through all this and I have to read all the computers, and I'm not, and he had scouted it, found it literally in 5 minutes, and he was ready to click buy. This is what I need, because I'll obsess over it. Should I do it? I'll wait 24 hours. Maybe I'll go back. I don't know. I don't know if I want to spend that much money. Ooh, but there's certain things that, God bless him, he's so decisive, and it relieves so much pressure and anxiety off of me, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to research more. And I'm tech vexed anyway. Like, my stuff always breaks or glitches. Like, I don't know what it is. It is weird.
I know 2 women that are as tech vexed as you and my mother.
Shout out, Anita.
Love you.
Shout out, Anita.
But that is something that in my world, I've learned from hanging on to gear for sentimental reasons. You can't do it. You have to make those decisions quickly.
Yep.
And when you do, you have nice added benefits that go with it. So what else do we got about 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
What else do you want to talk to, or do you want to get some shout outs going, or what do we need to do here in the last 10?
Chat, what questions do you guys have or think would be interesting to the topic? And Shanjo and Vanessa, thank you. More goodies. Thank you, Ash, for the cookie. Shout out Ash. She's the hardest working person in our team. She's always like behind the scenes. Like you have no idea how much she does. You have no idea. Like AR Media would not function very well without Ash at all. At all. So let's see. Yeah, I think change, having everything on the table, being able to laugh at your flubs and your faults. And it's okay to let your partner tease you, even though sometimes it's really irritating and you get the nasty look. There's certain jokes that he keeps making in repetition lately, and I've gotten to I'm just giving him the death stare now. The reminder of you're not funny right now. I know you think you're being funny, but you're not. Funny. Yeah, see, no, not always. Let's see. Conservative Chris, bless your heart.
But on that,
yeah,
proud of you, man.
Still, that's you made good choices.
Hear so often from we stayed together for the kids. No, you stayed together for your own ego, or you stayed together out of fear.
Yeah.
And because I actually heard something very interesting. I worked for a grief sanctuary this week, which is a really awesome place. They have 220-acre property that is just devoted to helping people get over grief. And the head therapist there said that the definition of grief was anything that changes your patterns and behaviors.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, we think of grief as, the death of a
strictly
loved one.
Mourning, but anything.
Grief is anything that causes a major disruption in your patterns of behavior.
So they're actually describing trauma.
Yeah. I mean,
trauma
grief
would
and
be,
trauma are almost interchangeable
trauma
words.
would be the better word, I think, for that definition they gave you. But yeah, okay.
But I think we are so afraid of trauma, again, getting uncomfortable, that people will stay in relationships that really are not good. I know multiple people right now that I wish they would just leave their spouse, because it would be so much healthier for them, for the children in the relationship, because then they can actually, I have been blessed to know so many blended families, and that can be such a healthy and positive thing for children. And I will not pontificate or speak with any type of authority with kids. So that's one thing I will not do, because I just don't have that kind of authority. But I have seen children who are in healthy blended families versus children who are parts of miserable marriages. It's night and day.
Yeah.
And if you're staying together just for your kids, you're probably doing more damage than not. Would be my very amateur psychiatrist approach.
The people that we're thinking about, I'm pretty sure I know who you're thinking about, but in those cases, I mean, the people were basically sleeping in separate beds. They were yelling. They were, it was not like, it created such anxiety, and the kids were manifesting that, like they were having trouble in school. They couldn't sleep. Some were having eating disorders. Like, I mean, all these other things. And it stems from your home is your happy place. Okay. It is your happy place. And I kind of tend to embrace the homemaker role a little bit more, but again, that comes out of my personal love for him, because in our current relationship where we're at, he is
the current
incarnation of the journey that we embarked on. He's the one out there working his ass off 80 hours a week. So my view, the least I can do for him to show my affection when he gets home, I make sure he has clean clothes, clean towels, the bed's clean, the house is clean. It's not like spotless, but he can just come home and relax.
I could, if that was an option.
But okay, on the weekends, I do require things of you in between stuff. I require help with things, but
my job is one that allows me to work in the home. So generally when I come home, it's not strictly to relax. I usually have something else to do, but I'm able
that's
to
why
do
I said
that.
80 hours, because even when you're home, you're always working.
And the flip side of that is, outside of boxed cake and pasta, the kitchen is not your domain.
No, it's not.
So I make sure that you can eat.
Yes. He handles the cooking. I keep the house in order. He mows the lawn. I handle the flowers and the weeding and all that kind of, like, it's the partnership of it, doing what works based on your time, your strengths, whatever is happening. Everybody assumes that's why, like, I don't think it's bad if you have a father that stays home with the kids. Maybe he's better suited for it.
Mhm.
It doesn't make him less of a man. Maybe in that relationship, that's where he needs to be at that time. Maybe they reverse in a little bit. Maybe that's just for
That
whatever
happens
reason.
quite frequently.
Yeah, like, I mean, but the stigma to
Yeah.
it, I don't appreciate. I always felt like anybody, I mean, whoever is the best one with the kids, take care of the kids. Whoever earns the most money at that time, okay, do that, and you do this, and that, like, it
It's
fluctuates.
an ever-evolving partnership.
It is, and you have to be okay with that.
If it's not, you're in a stagnant relationship, and your relationship is becalmed. That's a very old term, but that's a old Navy term from the wooden ship days, and that was just when the wind would disappear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, if you were becalmed for too long, you died.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially in that world when there was no
Yeah.
radios, no SOS, and it's a dangerous thing. So
Yeah.
you have to constantly be courting your spouse because that's the wind.
Try and make time to have time together. Whether it's a date night or you're going for a walk together or you're doing something. It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. It doesn't
Date
have to
nights
be a
need
big
not
trip.
be extravagant.
Yeah. It's just being together and having that time. And it's different for every couple depending on what their interest is. Maybe they have love of sports and they go to their local teams, or
And
I don't know.
That's been something that's been very difficult frankly for us for a couple of years because
We didn't have
in
when I was sick.
well, no, I mean today
Yeah.
we have very little recreational interest that
Yeah.
coincide. I mean, we just
That-
don't.
But that stems from my illness because we got out of sync for so long.
Yeah,
because I couldn't
even
physically
then, I
do.
mean, really going way back.
Yeah.
Movies were one of the only things that we really did that
Yeah.
was because we don't like the same music.
Nope.
Not really. I mean, we have individual artists that we both enjoy, but
You like to cook. I don't.
yeah. I mean, you like playing in the dirt. I like playing in the dirt in other ways, but not in the gardening thing.
Yeah.
So it's a constant struggle and
to find those activities together, those fun things to do together.
Yeah. And it's a lot of trial and error. And sometimes it's, hey, I want to go do this, or hey, you want to go do that. And we're trying to figure that out.
We went through a period where we were each trying to find an activity that we'd never done before.
Yep.
We went bowling one time. I hadn't been bowling since I was in high school. I went like once or twice in high school and we went bowling. My arm was sore, but we had fun.
Yeah.
But we were just trying to find different things in, yeah, there's all these different things that you can do.
All right. Well, I'm gonna kind of begin the closeout as we're rounding out here.
Herschel, would you like to tell us about your latest projects?
I will do that here in just a minute.
Would you like to do that?
I want to.
All my guests get the opportunity.
There's a couple of things that we didn't get to go over.
Okay.
I think the best piece of advice that I can give, specifically to women, as a man. When your spouse, boyfriend, husband, whatever.
Oh, God, I know what he's going to say.
When they ask you, where do you want to eat? Answer them. Actually, tell us what you want. Because that's all we want. Because men, our programming is to, what does she want? Okay, I need to go. Let me go. I need to figure this out. I need to get this and this and this and this. We want a task that we can complete. So when we have to play 40 questions in the car trying to figure out where to go and eat, it is very frustrating, and that can lead to fights. Now, why is that a problem?
We were going to talk about the cart. Okay, good.
See, you see how I'm connecting all this together?
I'm proud of you.
It's weaving.
Good job.
It's orchestrated.
Way to sew, babe.
Yep.
Way to sew.
Which is another thing that I do. She doesn't.
Yeah, I know.
When you fight in the car is actually biologically the worst place for spouses to argue or fight.
Yep.
Here's why. If you are driving, and we're going to pretend that I'm already in England and we're driving on this side. If I'm driving and I'm trying to watch the road and I'm having a deep or difficult or angry discussion with her, if I am actually paying attention and not pulling a Fast and the Furious, right, I am seeing her out of my peripheral vision. Why is that a problem? It is because when we see things out of our peripheral vision, it trips the fight or flight response that is innate in our brains. And therefore, she is no longer my wife. She is a threat
You will
because I
have
am
much
seeing
more
her in
vicious.
my peripheral
Yep.
vision. So don't fight with your spouse in the car. That actually is where I'm going to land this. Tell me where you want to eat and don't fight in the car.
Yeah.
Those are two really great little pieces of advice. What advice would you have for male listeners?
It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no, but have a damn good reason and be able to articulate it. It can't just be no because I don't want to do it, or no because, whatever. If you're going to tell me no on something, that's fine. Explain to me why. Explain to me why what I'm asking for is unreasonable or not logical. I think you will avoid a lot of fights.
Mhm.
If and if the answer is no, I don't want to do it because I'm tired, then just say it and that's fine. Accept whatever comes after. I mean, just accept she may or may not tolerate it. Or she may be like, okay, take a nap and then we can do it. That could be the answer you get. But it's always okay to tell them no. But just be prepared to explain, because otherwise you're gonna you don't want to fall into that parent relationship trap. That will kill a marriage super fast. If either one winds up taking on, and that's why we've harped so deeply on the partnership aspect of this, because you don't want to fall into that parent-child relationship where one is more dominant in doing the orders. That's why I always kind of instinctively go against the whole, the husband leads everything, makes every decision, and does that, because then your wife is literally a child. That's what it always felt like to me. I've had friends that had that relationship, or at least they got married in that relationship, but the relationship evolved into one similar to what we have. I know you know who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Well, and it's also amusing to me because you ask most cultures what the most terrifying thing is, and it's the woman
an angry woman.
The angry woman of the culture.
Angry woman of the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, a truly angry woman. There's a reason hell hath no scorn like a woman. There's a reason that's a popular statement, and it stood the test of time. There are very good reasons for that.
Indeed.
Yes. Yes. Any other questions from the chat as we're team felon? You all are so funny. If the energy is not balanced, it kills the attraction. Yes. That I love Ash. Ash always gets me. But
ask where you want to eat while parked in the car before leaving. That's a very good way to think about it.
Yes.
Or you can adopt what I have done, which is very simple. I know there's 3 places that she will eat, and they are within the same shopping center. So if the conversation of where do you want to eat lasts longer than 15 seconds, we're going to that shopping center.
We're just going to one of this area where there's a few things that
it's
are fine.
Pizza, pub food, or Mexican. And I know, and I mean, it's probably always a good idea. It seems like most people, if you go for tacos, you're not going wrong.
Probably.
Most people like tacos.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. Most of them, I'd say.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Do I get to do my shout out?
Yes.
All right. So I am working on a really awesome project. I'll be headed to the UK to shoot the follow-up documentary to our now multi-award winning documentary, Beyond the Shoreline, The Channel of Bones.
Yep.
If you have not had a chance to see that film, I encourage you to go to beyondtheshoreline.org and check out the film. You can go to vimeo.com and you can either rent or buy the film. It's a great little film, if I do say so myself. We just recently were named Best Cinematography in a Feature Documentary at the 5 Continents International Film Festival. We have a few more coming up. Would appreciate your support in any of those ways. We are going to the UK this summer. Steve Leach, my marathon swimmer, Steve Moby Leach, will be taking on the English Channel, and followed up by a swim in the North Channel from Ireland to Scotland. These are both extremely challenging swims.
Yes.
English Channel for its distance, and for the cold water, we're hoping for middle 60s or little 60s, as Steve likes to say, because he's a Scot. North Channel, it gets a lot more dangerous.
We 60s?
He says little 60s.
Please tell me he says we.
He says little 60s. Little 60s.
He's so funny.
He gets really broguish when he's tired or passionate. It's really funny. But North Channel will be 57-degree water if we're extremely lucky. So that's super cold. And there will also be there in the middle of lion's mane jellyfish season. So we could use any help you could get. We do have several opportunities for funding that are, again, there on the beyondtheshoreline.org page. And if you have a business or anybody that would be interested in advertising plans, we have several advertising plans that we have just launched, and we are looking for support all the way through 2025, because in 2025, Steve will be taking on the complete Ocean 7 challenge in 7 months. It's never been done in that time frame. So that'll be 7 channel swims all over the world in 7 months, with the goal of raising $7 million to build a sober living community in the upstate of South Carolina through Miracle Hill Ministries. So anything that you can do to help us out in there, beyondtheshoreline.org. Thank you so much for having me on, Mary. My love.
And please follow him on social media and Steve, because they will be live streaming and doing all kinds of fun things in their adventures this summer in Europe. So you will get to see all of that. If nothing else, just follow along and see how they're doing.
Yeah, because I know that there is a tacit plan to visit Loch Ness. Steve's going to go and search for Nessie, I think.
Well, if anybody can find him.
You know, fun fact, this one blew my mind when I was doing some research on the waterways. There is more water in Loch Ness than all other rivers, lakes, and tributaries in the UK. It is one of the deepest bodies of water on the planet.
So anything could be down
wild.
there. Yeah, when you think about it, I mean, technically, anything could be there. Yep. Thank you, Conserva Chris. That's sweet. Thank you. Any other shout outs? Anything you want to give? We'll wrap up early tonight.
Shout out to you, because I love you.
Thank you, honey. Choose wisely, my friends. It matters. It'll be the most important decision you make.
I found another workout shirt that I wanted.
Oh, God.
It says I work out because my wife is hot. I think I need that. Of course, I'm still going with George Washington riding the eagle with the barbell that says WTF is a kilogram. I'm going to be in the UK on the 4th of July, and I really want something ridiculously American and obnoxious to wear on the 4th of July in England.
Yep. That's the thing. That happens. Yep. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. I hope something of what we've shared is helpful to anybody out there. I always hope that with all of my shows. So Patriot Theater is coming up tonight. Oh, Braves Piano, honey. Thank you for the shades. Thank you so much. Thank you, Black Mamba.
Somebody up here is talking about South Carolina. Yeah, if you live up in the upstate of South Carolina and you are blessed to be around Miracle Hill Ministries, you are very lucky.
That is a wonderful organization.
Very impressed with what that organization does.
I'm jealous we don't have anything like that where we live. Very jealous of that. But yeah, Miracle Hill, go look that one up. It's a really interesting organization. Okay, so Patriot Theater coming up with Duppy, Sean, and Ash, and they are going to be watching Indiana Jones films.
Which one?
Well, see, and that's okay. So we had this debate before we went live. And I was like, what do you mean, which one? I'm sure they're just going to go in order. And he's like, yeah, which one? And I was like, damn it. It's a trick question, and I don't know the answer.
Yes, because Raiders of the Lost Ark is technically not the first film.
I did not know Temple of Doom was technically a prequel.
It is.
Did anybody else know that? I didn't know that. I don't know how many times I've seen it. I didn't know. Yeah, no.
Also, Dan Aykroyd is in it.
Is he one of the Nazis?
No, Dan Aykroyd is the cab driver that drops Indy off at the airplane after eating or at the Obi-Wan restaurant.
Really?
Because if you look at the restaurant at the that he goes into to get the diamond, it's the Obi-Wan restaurant.
You think Sean changed it to Godfather?
Oh, that's a good movie too.
Okay. I like Indiana Jones a little better.
All right, Braves Piano, if you liked all the Indiana Jones films, we need to have a discussion about Diarrhea of Destiny. I mean, Dementia of Destiny. I mean, Dial of Destiny.
Subtle, Pumpkin. Real subtle.
That's been my...
Yeah, he's fun. You know, just laugh every day. Good advice. Laugh every day.
Every single day.
Yes. Laugh every day if you can. So we will be back tomorrow with Truth Blitz. I will be here at 1 o'clock, and Braves Piano will be with me, and we will be cutting through whatever the headlines are of the last 24 hours. And then the regular shows will begin throughout the evening, and the week will continue. So, yeah. So come out to Patriot Theater tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow. And I hope everybody has a blessed and wonderful day. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.